Hi guys, hi my lovelies, you're welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. My name is Otim. I create content on sewing tutorials and turban cap, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys on how I made this short luxury boubou using micado fabric, and I spice it up with rhinestone. It is absolutely beautiful. I received inspiration from the Holy Spirit to create this style. I have made this style for about 5 clients in different colors. If you are into ready to wear business, this is a unique design for you to add to your collections. As you can see, it is not a common design at all. And if you are not into ready to wear business, you can make this for yourself. So without further ado, let's move right to the tutorial. There are different colors of rhinestones in the market, and it has different grade. I normally go for the highest grade, which is called number 1. It is absolutely beautiful and it is the most expensive. So I bought few colors. The video is not really showing the colors of the stone. I have black, I have pink, I have blue, I have green, gold and silver. So I decided to show us different colors before we move on. I have already made a detailed tutorial on how to use stone board to make rhinestone transfer. I'm going to put the link in the description box below. In case you don't know how to use stone board to make rhinestone transfer, please click on the link below to watch the video before you continue with this. It is very important. Also, when you go to the market, there are different designs of stone board. You can purchase any design of your choice. It must not necessarily be this particular design of mine. As you can see, I decided to put the 3 designs at the back, the 3 smaller ones at the back, and I decided to place the big one in front. As you can see, I got the inspiration after I bought the board. I decided to give it a try and it came out very beautiful. I'm going to be making lots of short boubou dresses using micado fabric with different board, and I'll be posting the tutorial on my channel. So I've shown us the material that I used. Like I said, the name of the fabric that I use is called micado, and it's sold for 2,500 naira per yard in the market, and they have it in different colors. So let's move on to the drafting. The very first thing I always like to do before folding my fabric is to mark on the wrong side of the fabric. After that, then I'll fold my fabric into 4. I rule my starting line. On that line, I'm going to impute neck width 3.5 inches, neck depth for the back 1 inch, neck depth for the front 4 inches, neck width 3.5 inches, neck depth for the back 1 inch, neck depth for the front 4 inches. Then I'll connect the necklines. This is for the back, then this is for the front. I am drafting the front and the back bodies together. From the folded edge of the fabric, I measured 22 inches for my sleeve length. Then I mark it. Then I also measured 1.5 inches for my shoulder slope. Then with my straight ruler, I'm going to connect from the shoulder slope to the neck width. For my sleeve opening, I'm going to measure 12.5 inches. The same 22 inches that I marked on my shoulder, I'm going to mark it at that 12.5 inches. The same 22 inches, I will also mark it there. Then I'll connect the sleeve opening to the shoulder slope, like so. Shoulder to my hip line is 25 inches. At the hip line, I'm going to impute my hip measurement divided by 4 plus 3 inches. I'm going to impute the same measurement at the lower part. The total length of my dress is 41 inches. So I'm going to roll into a straight line, like so. I'll roll it upward to join with the sleeve. For my sleeve slant, I'm going to measure 1.5 inches. This always makes the sleeve to look beautiful and relaxed. Then from the 1.5 inches, I'll connect it to the shoulder slope. At that sharp corner, I'm going to measure 1 inch and curve it from the sleeve to join with the hip line, like so. After sewing on that curve line, make sure that you notch it so that the sleeve will relax very well. Then for my pocket opening, I'm going to measure shoulder to 17 inches. That's where my pockets will start from. Then from that 17 inches, I will measure 7 inches downward for my pocket opening. So when I'm cutting, I'm going to notch that mark. Shoulder to 17 inches, then 7 inches for the pocket opening. So before I cut it out, I'm going to add half an inch seam allowance at the shoulder. Then I'll cut it out. That's about it for the drafting. As you can see, it is very easy. Let me go over it again before cutting it out. From my starting line, I measured neck width 3.5 inches, neck depth for the back 1 inch, neck depth for the front 4 inches. Then I connect the necklines. From the center back to where my sleeve will be 22 inches. From there, I measured 1.5 inches for the shoulder slope and I connect it to the neck width. From the shoulder slope, I measured 12.5 inches for my sleeve opening. Then shoulder to my hip line is 25 inches. At that point, I measured my hip divided by 4 plus 3 inches. And I impute the same measurement to the hem. From there, I connect it with a straight line. to join the sleeve, then I curve the sleeve. For my pocket, I measure 17 inches, then the pocket opening is 7 inches. So that's about it. Next is to cut it out. I'm cutting the back neckline first. I'm cutting the shoulder slope from the 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then the sleeve I'm going to cut from the slanted line. As you can see, I'm still going to add band to the sleeve. I'm going to show us all that. Then I'm going to cut from the hem. And the size. Please make sure that you notch the sleeve, the starting of the pockets and the pocket opening. I forgot to notch it, but I later notch it before attaching the pocket to the dress. Please make sure that you notch that mark, that 2 marks that I made on the dress. Please notch it. So I'm going to remove the back bodies. Before I cut the front neckline, I'll take to my ironing table and give it a good press. I'm going to press the front and the back bodies before I cut the front neckline, because I'm still going to slit the front with about 4 inches downward. So let me quickly take it to my ironing table, iron it, and I will get back to you. I've ironed it in order to have a crease line, because it is on that crease line I'm going to slit the front open downward with about 4 inches. So I'm going to first of all cut the front neckline. This is the front bodies. So after that, I'm going to measure 4 inches. From the folded edge, I'm going to measure 4 inches. Then I will split it open to meet the mark. So after that, I'm going to cut facing for the front bodies and the back bodies. I'm going to cut facing for it, and I'm going to iron a stay to the wrong side of the facing. This is how the front looks like. This crease line is going to serve as a guide when I'm placing the rhinestone design on the fabric. It's going to help me to be able to centralize the design on the bodies. At this stage, I've cut out my band. I cut out the height of 2.5 inches by length 26 inches. I've given it a good press. I've ironed the back bodies. As you can see, this crease line will help me to centralize the design on it. I'm going to iron the crease line out of the dress much later when I'm through with coupling everything together. Then this is the front bodies. I've given it a good press. this is the back bodice. I've given it a good press. The one I showed us earlier is the front body. So the next thing I want to do, even the fabric that I'm going to use for the facing, please make sure that you iron it as well. Everything should be nice and flat. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out facing for the back neckline. After cutting out facing for the back neckline, I'm also going to cut out facing for the front neckline. Then after that, I'm going to iron edge stay to the back. I will overlock the edge and use the facing to turn the neckline. Make sure that the folded edge of your fabric aligns with the folded edge of the facing. Excuse me. I cut out the neckline. I traced the neckline and the shoulder slope, as you can see. Then I removed the pins. I removed the bodies. I measured 4 inches round. Four inches, 4 inches, 4 inches. Then I cut it out. This is the facing for the back body, so I'm going to repeat the same process for the front bodies. This is the front bodies, so I'm pinning the center back, the folded edge to the folded edge of the facing. I'm pinning it so that it won't be moving around when I'm cutting it. Take your time, then trace the necklines. I bought 3 yards of micado fabric, 3 yards for this style. Then I traced the shoulder slant. I slit the folded edge of the front, folded edge of the facing, just like the way we did to the front. I slit it to 4 inches. Then I remove the pins. I mark 4 inches. I mark 4 inches. Then I curve it to meet the edge of the facing, like so. Facing of the front is different because of the slit. Then I cut it out. So after that, I'm going to iron interfacing to the wrong side of the facing. So this is how it looks, exactly like the front. This is for my pockets. My fabric is folded into 4, as you can see. This is the piece of fabric. So I'm going to mark the starting line. Remember that I measured 7 inches for my pocket opening on the bodies, so I'm going to measure that 7 inches and mark it. Then I'm going to place my hand on it and trace out my hand. You will not trace out exactly your hand, you are going to add some extra inches to it. You curve it to join the 7 inches mark, like so. This is how I cut for my pockets. Then I'll cut it out. So after tracing the pockets, I'm going to set it aside for now. I'm going to slit the folded edge open. This is how I cut for my pockets. I'm going to show us on how to attach it to the bodies. So I'm going to pin the 4 pieces. I'm going to pin them together and set it aside for now. The next thing to do is to turn the neckline with facing. So I'm going to pin the facing to the bodies. I'm going to sew half an inch round. I will notch and top stitch. So what I normally do, let me show us. I normally, with my textile marker, I'm going to mark half an inch on the facing where I'm going to stitch. I'm going to mark the seam allowance I'm going to sew, which is half an inch. I'm going to mark it on the facing. It has to be equal at that edge. It is very important. That is why I always mark it, so that when I'm sewing, I will not sew excess. You have to make your stitch to be the same, so that by the time you turn it, it will be equal and it will look very nice and professional finishing. So I'm going to mark the seam allowance that I'll be stitching. I'll first of all mark it. The marker that I'm using is textile marker. You can see the way I draw it. This is how I normally sew. I'll first of all draw it. So after finishing the marking, I'm going to take the bodies. This is the right side of the front bodies. I'm going to place the facing on it like so. Then I'll pin it down and I'm going to stitch on that mark. I'm going to stitch on that mark like so. Then I will notch it and give it a good press. I'll do the same thing on the back. This video is getting too long already. I'm so sorry, guys. It's because I always like to show detailed tutorial and step by step on how I achieve my dress. I've turned the facing, I've turned the neckline with facing, as you can see, and I've given it a good press, and I've overlocked the edge of the facing. This is the front. As you can see, I've overlocked the edge. This is the right side. I've given it a good press. It is looking very neat, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to join the front bodies and the back bodies together at the shoulder. This is where I always join mine. I'll join facing to facing. I'll first of all pin it down. I'll join facing to facing, bodies to bodies. I'll join it with 1/2 inch. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side, facing to facing, bodies to bodies. I've attached the bodies together at the shoulder, as you can see, and I overlocked the edge. It is looking very neat. When you turn the neckline will come out very neat. The joining is very neat. I always like this method if I'm joining my bodies together at the shoulder, and if I'm using facing. This is how I always join it. You can see how it looks on the right side, very neat. If you follow this step, yours is going to look like this. I'm still going to give it a good press much later. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pin my bodies. I'm going to pin my pockets to the bodies. Remember that I told you guys to notch the pockets opening, the starting and the opening, but I forgot to notch it when I was cutting it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold my fabric into two, and I'm going to notch where my pockets will start from and where it will end. Then I'll pin my pockets to the bodies. So what I'm doing right now, I'm folding it in order for me to notch the pockets starting and the opening. So what I'm doing now, I'm pinning the pockets on all the sides. The notch is serving as a guide for me to know where to pin the pockets. So after pinning the pockets, the seam allowance that you are going to use to sew the sides, like me, I'm going to use 0.75 seam allowance to sew the sides. So I'm going to sew 0.75 after pinning the pocket. Then I'm going to flip it over and top stitch. That notch will serve as a guide to know where to start pinning the pocket from. After pinning it, I will sew 0.75 and flip it over and notch it. I'm going to repeat the same process on all the remaining pockets. I've sewn the pockets and I've top stitched, and I also overlocked the edge because this fabric frays a lot. You have to overlock it. Anywhere you sew, you must overlock it. I've done that to all the sides, as you can see. So the next thing to do is to take the bodies and place on my heat transfer machine and transfer the design on the bodies. I've already made a detailed tutorial on how to transfer rhinestone board to a dress. I'm going to put the link in the description box. So I'm going to take to my heat transfer machine and transfer it to the bodies. The crease line that I have on the dress, on the bodies, is going to help to centralize the design on the bodies. As you can see, remember that I told you guys to iron it so that it will have crease line. So this is the essence of it. So when I'm placing the design on the bodies, the crease line will serve as a guide for me to be able to centralize the design to the bodies. I've already made a detailed tutorial on how to transfer design to a dress, so I'm going to skip this part. For the turn up, I'm going to place the band on the wrong side of the dress, like so. I'm going to pin it down, then I'll take to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew half an inch straight down, then I'll flip it to the right side. I'll repeat the same thing to the other side of the sleeve. Then after that, I'm going to give it a good press and use hemming gum to secure it. After that, I'm going to sew the sides. Let's say I've sewn the band to the dress. I'm going to sew the sides with my seam allowance. I'll sew the pockets like so, then straight to the hem. Then I'll hem the lower parts. I'm going to repeat the same thing to the other side as well. After giving it a good press, I'm going to place hemming gum like so, then I'll press it down. I'm going to repeat the same thing to the other side as well. This is the final look, guys. Look at the inside. See how neat it is on the inside. Please, that facing, use hemming gum to secure the facing to the bodies. I forgot to show us that. And make sure that you notch that curve part that I told us earlier. Notch it so that the sleeve will relax. This is it on the inside. As you can see, it is looking absolutely neat. This is the final look, guys. We've come to an end of today's tutorial. If you find my tutorial helpful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below if you've not done so. I upload weekly tutorial on my channel. Also remember to click on the notification bell so that whenever I upload a new video, you will be notified. Until I come your way next, please stay safe and remain blessed. Love you all. Bye.